We have Heath Phelps tonight. We are going to do a lot of talking about starting a new pressure washing business. He's getting ready to introduce himself here in just a minute, but Heath has been wildly successful. He just started his pressure washing business just a handful of months ago and has been wildly successful. That is why I wanted to have him on here, because primarily we're going to talk about, when you're first getting started in pressure washing or any home service industry, because a lot of those processes are going to be the same. What is some advice that he might have for getting started? We're going to talk a little bit about Home Advisor, or maybe we'll talk about yard signs, Facebook ads, that kind of thing. But yeah, Heath, if you want to introduce yourself and talk about, all the success you've had in the last few months starting your pressure washing business and kind of what led to that, and we'll just dive right into it.
Hi, I'm Heath Phelps, and I retired from the Navy in October of 2020. And I was actually in Texas on my retirement leave building my truck. So my first house wash was October 8th. And
October 8th.
I appreciate Sean for having me on and opportunity to talk to anybody. Because I feel like anytime you can reach somebody that gives them one piece of advice that pushes them further towards success, that's what it's all about. It's everything plays into it. You have to get your business to a point where Sean's services will bring value to your business at the level that you can handle it, because there is too much of a good thing, and we've talked about that already, and we wholeheartely agree. We're in the same place about it. So in 9 months we hit six figures as a company, and now we have 6 employees.
Woo, that's crazy. 6 figures already.
Yeah. 6 employees, 2 rigs. That's part of that is tracking your metrics, tracking your costs, understanding how much you spent and on things, and what it costs you to do business. I understand exactly what I need to make to stay profitable per day, per truck, per rig. And I knew that before we ever rolled one out. And you might have to adjust your numbers a little bit, and that's why you have a business plan. You have a business plan, you try to execute your plan, and then you go back and you look did your plan work, or did it, you have your quarterly meeting or whatever. And if that quarterly meetings with yourself, you need to dedicate the time to sit down and look at your numbers and make sure that you're on track, and expansion is where that's crucial. You have to be able to provide the work to both rigs. And the big July slowdown is a big deal. But anyway, that's the story of how we got started. It was all about a pool conversation in 2016, where my buddy is an engineer and he was pressure washing on the side just for, some Amazon money. He's shopaholic. And a couple years later, I was like, "You're making how much in working one day a week?" And that's when I was like, "Hold up." And then I had no idea what I was getting into. Didn't know the industry was so broad and so much went into it. I've never owned a business. So it was really cool to learn all this and challenge myself in the new way after 20 years in the Navy. And I love the industry. I love the guys in the industry. That's why I'm on Facebook helping people. I'm not a guru. I don't know everything. This book is just the bare bones basics. But for me, the basics came to me fairly easy. So that's why I feel comfortable answering guys' questions. And when I don't know something, I'm I don't know. that's the bid. The guys are "How do you bid this 17 building complex?" I'm "I've never watched anything like that. I don't know."
Right.
I'll tell people up front. They're "Well, I just want your best guess." I'm "Well, you give me the data. If you give me the data, then I can tell you what I would do."
Right.
And
yeah, and that's crazy. Thank you for your service, by the way. I didn't know that you were in the Navy for 20 years. That's awesome. Obviously you had a lot of success. So when you first got started, what were some of the things that you did pretty quickly to start generating business? Because that's where a lot of guys get hung up, is they might go buy the equipment and then they're okay, what do I do now? Should I go door knocking? Should I make some cold calls? So what did you guys do?
I put on some short shorts and got 2 cheeseburgers, and I'm just playing.
Oh gosh. Hey, listen, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
right. Whatever
That's
takes.
it though. Whatever it takes. So I started in October, and it was still pretty warm down here in Texas. It's pretty nice. So, got rolling, and I didn't grow up in Houston. I grew up north of Austin, but I have friends down here, and they have friends. And so, in that process of me trying to build the truck, I hosted a surprise birthday party for my friend. A lot of people saw the truck in the driveway, and they're "Oh, cool. What are you doing? What's this thing?" And I was telling them about it. And so when I got close, people were starting to kind of ping on me like, "Hey, are you ready?" It's like, yeah. So a friend hired me, and our very first job was a 5,000 square foot roof with a gigantic driveway. It was, I mean, we got it done. Everything worked right, and the rig was great. And then it followed immediately by their neighbor hired us for their roof, and their neighbor hired us for their roof, their house, their driveway. So it was like right out of the gate, you know, we were at like with $2,000 in like 2 days, like right out of the gate. So it
Right.
was just right place, right time. And then another friend hired us, and then it was like, now what? Well, you know, I started going up and down my street. Like, hey, I just started a company. I'm cleaning driveways. You've seen me working on the truck for weeks. And, one neighbor, I was like, I'll do your driveway for a review. And they were like, cool, knock it out. And then they later hired me to do the roof, like full price. They were like, we love you. Thank you so much. Like, you've been over backwards for us, and our driveway looks great. And we just want to support you because we've seen how hard you guys are working. And we're like, hey, awesome. So, like, I've washed one roof on my street, almost every driveway on my street, and I'd say that like most of them paid for it, and and the ones that didn't was well worth it because they're only like 4-car driveways, and I'm
Right.
getting a review out of it. But and then I went to the next street and started just people have seen me driving the truck around, so like that brand awareness was there.
It was familiar.
Right.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, and you're my neighbor, and like you're a nice guy, like you're not out here like demanding. I was just like, are you
Mhm.
interested in having, people were like, oh, can you wash my gutters too? I'm like, yeah, whatever. I wash everything. But we were just starting with driveways. And so one day we were washing a driveway and it turned into like 4. And then, people were driving by. And that's a lot of where we started before we were advertising is we'd be on the job. And that's why I tell guys, like, you think you can't afford to work for free, but what you don't realize is when you're out there
Mhm.
working, that's marketing and advertising. Your rig is its own advertising, and
Yeah.
you are your number one salesman. Today, today we're doing a job on this street, and I swear to God, if I can ever get off the street, it will not be too soon because it's far, far away, and every home on the
Yeah.
street is like a
They
million
they
dollar
just
home.
and they just come up to you all the time like, "Hey, I
Yeah,
saw you did so and so's."
this is my third time down there, and I'm not complaining about money. Trust me, I like it, but like
Right.
the jobs are a lot more stress because these homes are like fantastic, beautiful. Like this is the kind of
Multi-layered.
yeah, and they're all tight, and it's like
Yeah.
and so it's like we're cleaning stuff by hand today. We're like Texas marble, Texas limestone by hand because this tiny yard is so manicured. There's not like we couldn't even rinse it. So we're
Mhm.
coming back tomorrow to rinse it. I got to send
Right.
somebody.
So
So
there's a couple of points that I wanted to talk about really quickly that you brought up that's really important and probably had a lot to do with why you scaled. And for one, it is social proof is one of the biggest things, which kind of ties into the other point I wanted to make about doing work for almost nothing to free, right? Everybody, because there's this misconception about like the $99 guy that pops up in all the Facebook groups and everybody wants to make fun of him and all of this stuff. But the thing is that getting out there does several things. One, if you do a good job, you're going to get a review, right? That's huge. Two, all of their neighbors are going to see you doing work and thus can generate more revenue that you wouldn't have had if you were sitting at home. And the third thing is, and I talked about this the other day with somebody, and it's social media, right? So as you're building your brand, your social media is so important and the frequency at which you post. And if you're at home not doing any jobs, then you don't have anything to post, and so you're not growing your brand. So if you're out doing, all the driveways in your neighborhood for 50% off or free for a review, even if you're doing it for free, you're getting all of this content. You should be taking tons of pictures and tons of video, and now you've got content for the next week so that you can stay active and keep people engaged in your Facebook page, thus bringing more people to your Facebook page that eventually will turn into sales. So there's a lot to be said when you're getting started about doing work for free, work for reviews, and work for a discount. And the other thing that you said, so one of the very first shows I had was a guy named Jeff Childress, a good friend of mine in my area. He's been in pressure washing for 5 years. He's, one man crew, but he's crushing it. And he said when he got started, he was doing door to door, but he wasn't doing door to door sales. All he was doing was going around with a business card and saying, "Hey, my name's Jeff. I'm with this company. We do a lot of pressure washing in the area. I just wanted to introduce myself. And if you ever have any needs in the future, all I ask is that you give me a call," and then walks away. Because, as a homeowner, and that, I don't know what your philosophy is on this, but as a homeowner, when somebody comes to my door, if they're really salesy, my gut instinct is I want to get out of that interaction as quickly as possible and shut the door. But if somebody comes up to my door and they're really nice and they just say, "Hey, here's a business card, just introducing myself," and maybe I'll even chat with you because it seems like you're nice and not trying to sell me anything, and you might actually get a sale out of me at that point. But yeah, just like going, especially if you don't have any jobs, if you don't have anything to do, then just go door to door, and you don't have to sell. Just introduce yourself and your company. I think that's huge. But I think those were a lot of really good points. That's why I wanted to back up on those, because that probably had a lot to do with it. Which kind of leads me, obviously being a marketer, a paid marketer in my field, do you guys, or have you done in the past, any paid advertising of any sort?
Facebook. Well, I dabbled with Google Ads, but my market is big,
Saturated.
and it's highly competitive for Google Ads. So
Yeah,
the
so
price,
your
the
cost
pay
per
to
clicks
play
are
is
probably expensive.
it's to get effective ones. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the problem, is like you got to dial it in, and then I would say in my market, if you want to run like competitively, you're at $1,500 a month. Like just,
That sounds about right.
but
And yeah.
I'm not against that. But like my ROI on Facebook is so high that
Mm-hmm.
we were consistently at 21 ROI on Facebook.
Wow.
I got to go look at the data. I could tell you right now what we're at for July. I was going to say this might be the month that we were not at 20 to 1 because the kind of the July
July.
slowdown.
Right.
You get the slowdown.
So yeah, while you're looking that up, so I mean that's a really interesting thing, and you could probably contest to this. When you're with your Facebook ads, are you guys optimizing for messages or lead generation?
Messages.
Right. So the important thing that I want to differentiate for anybody that's watching this and is considering doing Facebook or Google ads, when you go, the reason that I always start my clients off with Facebook ads, and I recommend guys if they're going to do their own Facebook ads, is because the cost to participate is much less, but the quality of the leads that you're going to get is also going to be a little bit less. And the reason for this is a homeowner who is looking for your service is going to Google and executing a search, which is why it costs a little bit more, because the intent is higher. Google's an intent-based platform. Facebook, people are just scrolling through and happen to see your ad, so the cost of the leads generally tends to be less, but the quality tends to go down. But that's where it comes into a numbers game. It doesn't matter if 1 in every 3 leads are good if you're only paying $8, $9 a lead or $10 a lead, because then your cost per good lead for an exclusive lead is $25 to $30, which can be really good compared to some of the other companies out there. And it's obviously going to depend on your market, because everywhere, is obviously a little bit different. Like cost per leads up north being $15 is pretty common, but if we go down south, it could be a little bit more different. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. I don't know if you looked up your numbers. I was really curious to that.
So it's still 20 to 1 ROI this month.
Sure.
But it probably would have been higher if we weren't in this slow month.
Yeah,
And
I saw
I
that.
think
I saw it with all my clients too. All of our cost per leads went up by about 20% this month.
and that's the typical, AC Lockers posted it. It's industry standard. I didn't know coming in that there was a
Mm-hmm.
slowdown. So luckily we were booked pretty far out into July, but it's just slowed us down. We're not like slam bang booked into August, but I'd say that my average cost per message on Facebook is around. It depends it's per ad, because I have 6 different ads.
That's great. That's
I'm
great to hear.
tracking like metrics on each. I'm seeing what's effective. Like I've got only time lapse videos on one ad running side by side with the same budget on 6 photos, so I can see like what's performing well. What's really interesting about that is the videos get way less views, but they
Mm-hmm.
perform right at the same level of the
Mm-hmm.
photos, like the
Yep.
same ROI and the
Yeah.
same conversion. So it's really cool because like Facebook allows you, like, you can label your ads, like they'll just give you like a label and like a color, but you can label it. So if
Yep.
you don't have, it's not just hieroglyphics, like, um, and you can see where the ads are coming from. And then I go back and look and do the math on them all the time. My whole mantra is trust but verify. Like, I trust Facebook, but I verify everything they tell me. And I was really interested to see that when Apple changed their data, privacy stuff, um, that's really when I got big into Facebook advertising. So I'm curious what my ROI would have been before all that privacy stuff.
To be honest, it didn't, obviously I make a living running Facebook ads and Google ads and all that stuff. And I was really scared initially. But I'm partnered with Facebook. So I have meetings with Facebook and we go over a lot of my clients' ad accounts all the time. Truth be told, it's really only affected, about 15% of the audience. While iOS usually makes up about 40 to 50% of the audience that consumes ads on Facebook, only a small portion of them have actually opted out of it, because you have to manually go in and do some things in order for that to take place. So it didn't hit as hard. It definitely made ad costs go up a little bit, but it's kind of marginal, because I was initially scared. But so talking about your Facebook ads, a point that I want to make first of all, do you run your own Facebook ads or do you have an agency or a company doing it for you?
I do it myself.
Okay, great. Which is really, really, really good because for several reasons, for anybody that's watching this, you always want to try to run Facebook ads yourself first and learn the platform, because as Heath continues to scale, he may eventually hire an agency, but it's important that he understands a lot of the analytics now, because if he hires an agency, he'll know if they're doing a good or a bad job. If you don't understand what you're looking at, you could have the wool pulled over your eyes very quickly. And so with all my clients, I try to teach them Facebook ads as I work with them, because it's a very important metric. Because just like I'm not an accountant, I know enough about accounting that if my accountant makes a mistake, I can look at it and say, wait, we need to look at this again. But something important, he said he's running about 6 different ads. And the reason that this is important is because in a lot of the Facebook groups that I interact with, guys are always commenting and saying, oh, Facebook ads don't work, boosting posts don't work, et cetera, et cetera. The reason that they don't work for most people is because they're not testing. You cannot run one ad with one image with one ad copy and expect to get great results. Like he said, he's running 6 different ads. And of those, go ahead.
30 photos and 6 videos. Yeah, and they're smart ads. So each one is 6.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's running roughly 36 different creatives among probably 6 different ad sets. So the point that I want to make here is the testing is so imperative. Like when we run ads with clients, and even when I teach you guys in my Facebook ads course, it is so important to run different creatives, because I've done it several times. You could pick a particular picture and do lead generation for messages, and you're paying $20, and then you duplicate that, and the only thing you change is you make it a video or you make it a graphic, and all of a sudden your lead costs get cut in half, right? So testing, if your Facebook ads are not working, it's because you're not testing enough, and that's really important. How soon into your business, because I kind of want to get back to like the tips, because I want to make sure that we provide some really good insight. How long were you in business before you started really throwing money at Facebook ads, before you were like, okay, like let's hammer down on this?
6 months, but it also like correlated to the season,
yeah,
we were, I wasn't throwing a lot of money at it in January. We were $1 a day, just learning,
right.
$1 a day. Look, man, $30, like
Yep.
don't go out to eat one night by yourself. And that's $30. Like you can afford to go and dabble in it and see. But again, like I'll never tell anybody, if you don't got 10 Google reviews, don't like, unless you're just curious. Like if it's a curiosity thing and you've got the money, the $30 to blow, then that's fine. But don't go into it expecting anything. There's a lot of people that looked at my Facebook ads that said, I went and Googled you and you were legit. And so there's that synergy was created, like everything interlocks. So that helped a lot. But February, we hit that cold snap. We had a big freeze, so we didn't do anything. I want to say, and it was late February, maybe it may have been February 15th that we kicked the budget up a little bit to like 450. And then I want to say in April or May, we kicked it up to 1,050. So now we're at like $35 a day.
Yeah.
And I haven't raised it any higher, but like right now, all the advice that I've seen was like, you cannot overcome the July slump of money. Don't waste it.
Right.
So we stood pat, and like, I'm still getting leads, but for the first time ever, I felt like the quality of leads was a lot more door kickers in July, like tire kickers. Just like, hey, or I don't own the house yet, which is fine. Like I don't care. I had a lady call me that day, and I explained how to start her own pressure washer because her budget was crazy low. I walked her through the whole thing, and she was like, I can't believe you're helping me. I'm like, well, that's kind of why I'm in business, is to help people. Like, I don't have to get your money to help you. And she's like, you're the best. And that she might say to somebody else, well, I didn't hire them, but when I called them, he helped walk me through this process.
Yeah.
he basically talked himself out of a job, but he didn't care because he was doing the right thing, or he felt
Yep.
it was the right thing. Whatever. Like
That's
that's
that. That's so huge. Like, so I just posted today in the Facebook group, because I get tons of messages all the time about people saying like, hey, can you help me with my Facebook ads? They're not working. They're not da 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 da. And so what I did was I let people schedule and book a free 30-minute appointment with me where I am going to go into their ad account and help them with their Facebook ads and get them set up and try to get them going. And yes, I will not make any money off doing that, just like you didn't make any money off that. But what it ends up turning into is, for one, it's a character thing, because I really do like seeing business owners succeed, just like you wanted to help them out. But it's going to turn into referral business, right? Like, I don't play for at least me, and you shouldn't, and even in pressure washing, you shouldn't play for the short game. Just like why, if you're just getting started doing free work and stuff, that's going to turn into referrals eventually. Like, you're gonna build a brand of people who will recommend you because of your character. You know what I mean? So
and
I
they
think
want to
that's,
see you win.
yeah.
They want to see you succeed as a small business owner. I have customers that are now friends of mine, and
Mm-hmm.
when I posted on Facebook that I said, just this week I was like, hey, this crazy little idea. In 9 months, we have 6 employees and 2 trucks, and customers are jumping on that, saying, we're so proud of you. We remember when we were like your first
Yeah.
customer, blah blah.
Right.
Like that, they're on your team, especially if you develop like a good rapport with them, and like you convey that you care.
Yeah. Yeah. So, question for you is: is Facebook ads your only paid advertising that you're paying out?
Correct. Only
Do
thing.
you know about how much of your business it probably comes from Facebook ads? Just out of curiosity.
Well, like I said, I mean, I can track the ROI, so
Right.
I would say that probably 90%. This month might have shifted a little bit,
So a
but
lot of your business is coming from Facebook
yeah,
ads.
and a lot of it is that people will tell me, "Hey, I didn't call you or message you through Facebook, but I saw your ad." I landed a car wash deal through Facebook. She said straight out, like, "Oh, by the way, I saw your Facebook ad. That's what made me call you." I said, "Great." And then I had a really, really big company call me, and that deal has been in the works for a while, and we finally closed it, and we're executing that like this week and next week. But like that was their basically district, South Texas manager saw our Facebook ad,
Yeah. Right.
and that's that so I'm not saying Facebook's the way to go for commercial, but like a lot of work, you have to figure out how to track that, and the easiest way is just to ask the customer, hey, how'd you hear about us?
Oh yeah.
That's such an easy question. It's also very hard. I forget to do it,
Hmm. Yeah.
but sometimes it's easy because you book these jobs through Facebook Messenger. Okay, that's easy. Like that's the Facebook generate from they clicked my ad and blah blah blah. And so, but like it takes effort to track your stuff, and so like
Hmm.
and the reason you need to track it, and I think Sean will agree, is that you don't want to throw bad money at something that's not working.
Right. And so it's funny that you say that, because, again, this is why generally my agency will turn away people who are just getting started, because of the needing to, not that our Facebook ads don't convert immediately, because they do. But to my point here, like Heath is saying, sometimes you run Facebook ads and you're going to get leads that don't directly correlate to the analytics that shows up on the page. And the reason I bring that up is because, when we look at the analytics at the end of the month, and we look at, you look at your account, I look at my account, whatever, and it says, let's say it said 50 leads, that could have been closer to 60 or 65, because, they saw your ad and then they went to your website, liked your website and your reviews, and then hit the call now button. That's not going to count as a conversion on Facebook ads. So that's definitely something to point out.
That's real. That's common.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as a marketer, it's always hard to kind of explain that, to younger business owners, not younger in age, but younger in business. See, that's the whole thing. Is like, even if your cost per leads, let's say on Facebook, were $25, but you were getting leads for $20 or $25 on Angie's List or Home Advisor, the reason that your Facebook ads are better is because, well, for one, they're exclusive leads; they're not going to be competitive per se. The other thing is you're branding your company. And every time you run an ad on Facebook, it could result in leads that you can't even track the analytic for. So that's definitely something important to talk about. So anybody who's watching this right now, if you guys have any specific questions for Heath, feel free to drop in the chat and we'll talk about him. But Heath, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you just put out a book just recently, and the title of the book is Pressure Washing 101. Is that right?
Yep, Pressure Washing 101 Guide. And I published it in February. The interesting thing is this was something as a Google Live doc, and I published and I went live with the Google Live doc, which is pretty. There wasn't a whole lot of changes when I finally published it. I went through and like did some spell checking, and there's still some stuff that needs to be fixed in it. I'm not an author.
Isn't that how it goes? I feel like it's ever going to evolve. You'll reprint another one. You'll be like, oh man, I should have added this. And that's how it is with my Facebook course.
Yeah. So you always, I mean, we're all learning. Even the guys that are teaching are learning, and that especially the guys that are teaching, because like I feel like once you teach yourself to like efficiently go absorb something or learn something, like you realize that you can improve and become more efficient. Once you're more efficient, you're making more money, whatever you're doing.
Right.
So I gave the book away for free for 6 months, and
okay.
So June to December, really. June to January 17th is when I published it. The book was live on Google and it was completely free. And that's honestly what drove me to publish it, is like it was just going like wildfire on the Facebook groups and getting shared everywhere. The forum
I should probably put this in a book form and capitalize on this a little bit.
No, actually, the story about that was guys were hitting me up, contacting me like, I want to pay you for this. I was like, I don't want your money. I'm just here to help.
Right.
And I had this bright idea that, okay, fine, so many guys want to pay for it. I'll publish it.
Yeah.
And Ron actually called me in December and said, hey, I see you helping a lot of people. I dig that. I'd like you to speak at our conference in Kima and the WatchSmart event, the UAMCC hosted.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm brand new, dude. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. You're helping people. I want you to talk about being a new business owner, a new entrepreneur. I'm not asking you to get up there and like push products. I'm not asking you to get up there and say anything you like. I don't care what you talk about. He's like, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, well, I'll talk about new business startup and social media presence, because I'm like real big on the best thing that you can do for your business when you're starting out is post twice a day to Instagram, from Instagram to Facebook to Twitter. Because I don't care about Twitter, but Twitter is part of the internet, it's part of the algorithm, it's part of our presence. And that's easy. It's a 3-in-1. So if you get Instagram, get a Twitter, post, link Instagram to your business Facebook account. It's not hard. It's very easy. And then I post twice a day to that. I post in the morning, I post at night. And honestly, I've been really, really slacking on it. I've gone to 1 post a day just because I'm personally busy and I need to delegate that. But
and Heath, how much does it cost you to post on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter?
And I post those same photos right afterwards to my Google My Business. So you can track your metrics really well on Google My Business. So if I go look for historically, my photos are viewed 500% more than my competitors. 500%. And I have right now, I'll pull it up right now just so we can, I'll give you real data, because I'm big on. Like,
so while you're pulling that up, so I just released a video. I don't know if you saw it. I think it dropped last week, and I gave 7 tips on how to grow your Google My Business platform, and one of the ways is posting daily to the Google My Business, but the second part to that is sharing that post to Facebook. So when you do that, Google has a back-end analytic that basically that nobody can really see, but they will push you further up that ladder, or that map pack, if you will, because you're using that particular feature. So I'm glad to hear that you actually use and you actually frequently post on Google My Business, because a lot of guys miss that one, man, and it's huge. It is a lot bigger than you think it might be.
So I have 312 photos. The average business like me has 26.
Yep.
And my average photo views are 6.91K compared to 959. And that's for a month. So I have 620% more. I've hit 1,000% more. For the last quarter, I'm at 592% more. And it gives you these great little metrics.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's too bright. No. But anyway, like it's a good way for you to see daily, like that what you're doing, and like it actually matters, and it takes time to get this traction. This is not a like
overnight success kind of thing.
no, and it takes effort, and
Mm-hmm.
like you like a lot of
It's
people are like, how are you so successful? I'm like, because I've been working 18-hour days.
right. Well, and so here's the thing. It's like with anything, right? Like if you've ever tried to go on a diet, or for anybody trying to start a business, it takes discipline, and you have to stick to it, right? It's not easy to wake up every day and, go and work out. It's not easy every day to go out and door knock when you need to get jobs. Just like it's not that easy necessarily to post on Facebook, Twitter, and Google My Business and Instagram every day. But if you have the discipline, the problem is that most people want to do something and get a result immediately. They want to go knock on doors and close a sale. They want to run a Facebook ad and close a sale. And so, by doing things like you're talking about, it's you're playing for the long game, right? Like these are all free platforms that if you use on a daily basis, there's really no excuse to not use them on a daily basis, especially if you're not booked out 2 to 3. If somebody calls me and says, I'm not posting there daily, but I'm a one-man show and I'm booked out 2 to 3 weeks, there maybe be an exception, but I would probably find 10 minutes at the end of my day and start posting, because that's really invaluable. But I do want to talk a little bit more about your book, but let's see, we have a question. So from Robert, he said, you post on Instagram to Facebook, then Twitter, not Facebook first. Yeah. What's your process for that, Heath?
Well, I go from Instagram, and when you go from Instagram, when you get to you have to write your post out, it gives you the option to say, hey, where do you want to send it? And you just check Facebook, Twitter. That's it.
Yep.
It's a check mark.
It's easy.
And for some reason, Facebook's always checked for me, and I always have to add the check mark to Twitter. Hey, that's easy. It's a habit. And another thing that I do to save myself time is I use text replacement things. So like all of my hashtags and all of my so I type one little sentence, I add some emojis, and then I hit hashtag text, and then like 30 hashtags drop into my post. And all I do is there's like 3 things I put spaces in. So like I have a green check mark. I'm like, save your back, call us, call or text this number. And I'm like, return. And then I'm good. So like, you don't have to spend all this time posting these hashtags. And like, that's a lot of people are like, how do you help all these guys so fast? I'm like, I have like 100 text replacements in my phone. Like
right.
all of my stuff like that. Like if you're sending out the same thing to a customer all the time, and like in a reply, like get a text replacement in your phone. And I just use a hashtag, because who is hashtagging when you're texting very often? Not very often.
Right.
So you're not going to like accidentally like throw in like, a paragraph into your text. You purposely change your keypad, go to hashtag, type it in, your text replacement pops up. But like, it's super easy to post from Instagram to these platforms. And it becomes, like you said, Sean's absolutely right, a habit. My habit is when I wake up, I'd roll over, I'd grab my phone, and I would do it. And I'll tell you what's changed my ability to post twice a day is I've interrupted my habit. We now have work phones, and all the material is on the work phones. And so I'm not rolling out of bed with the work phone. And what I need to do is just take the work phone into my room. So I grab it right away, do it first thing, and then it's like lockstep. Also, at the end of the day, I was putting every single one of my before and afters together and putting a logo on them. And I would just have photos and photos and photos ready to go. And honestly, we've got so many before and afters that I haven't done anything with that I've got to get back on track. And that's just the good struggle of getting busy when you're busy. You're like,
right. Like getting back to that. So I guess just to clarify, so what you can do, Robert, if you're not as familiar with Instagram, is once you're logged into Instagram, you can connect your Twitter and your Facebook account to Instagram. So the starting point is Instagram, and you never have to leave Instagram, because once you go to the post part of Instagram, there's a few check boxes at the bottom that you can slide over, and it'll auto send that to Twitter, and it'll auto send to Facebook. But Heath, one quick question before we get back to your book for you, and I didn't know if you knew this or not, and if not, it's a fun fact. Do you use the same hashtags, generally speaking, for all your posts?
Yes and no. I change them up.
Okay.
Occasionally.
So the reason, and I didn't learn this until later on in my marketing career. So several years ago, Instagram implemented this to stop this from happening, because I used to do it. I was pretty guilty of it. I used to keep in my phone, I would just have a notepad full of hashtags, and I would just copy and paste them. So what they did is they started doing what's called like a shadow ban on hashtags that you would use at a frequency. And so the way to get around it is a tip for anybody that's listening to this is, if you decide to start using Instagram, and you come up with the goal is what you should do is come up with anywhere from 12 to 17 hashtags and make 3 groups of them. And I would put them in your notes, and every time you post, cycle through the group of those hashtags, because if you do use the same hashtags over and over again, what will happen is you can click on that hashtag and try to go find your post, and you won't be able to find it because Instagram sees that you're using those same hashtags. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but I wanted to let anybody know.
That's good info.
Well, it happened to me because there was like I used to be really heavy into hashtags. Like there's a whole like research to it, like the hashtags to choose, and like use some that are like 1.5 million posts and then use some that are like 500 posts. But it took me a while. But anyways, I was posting and using the same hashtags, and I would go and look at the hashtags, couldn't find my posts, and then I realized that was the case. So yeah, fun fact. And if you have more questions on that, and anybody who's watching, you can shoot me a message. So your book, do you have a link to your book?
I do. It's in the chat. It's in the Zoom chat.
Okay.
It's in our chat.
Yeah, here, I'll drop it. So for anybody who's interested, in the, I can't find it. I don't have it handy.
It's in our Zoom conversation.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can post it here in a second. So your book, Pressure Washing 101, what's like the synopsis of the book? Like, what can somebody expect to get out of that book if they're getting started into pressure washing and they start reading through your book?
Really, it's literally coming at you like you just decided to do this, and the beginning is talking about like forming your LLC, what that is, like, and like real quick, it's like forming your business, insurance, pricing. So I have a general pricing guide in there. Obviously, guys up north can charge more, and you should. Estimates, downstreaming, chemicals, pressure. So the appropriate pressure to use on different things, like the basics.
Right.
Before the job email, like if you don't know what to put in your CRM, like I've got some gist in that. CRMs are great now. They have the stock stuff in a CRM is plenty. My customers are like, oh, your terms and conditions. That's my favorite thing is like when the customer's like, well, I didn't know you wanted me to move all the stuff off my patio. And I'm like, it's okay, ma'am. It's in my terms and conditions. But, people get busy. And she goes, oh, I always read those, but I didn't read yours because I've been busy. I was like, hey, it's cool. And then they back down. They're like, that attitude, it's gone. And like every single time I've had that happen, which is probably like 3, where I got somebody that was real snappy with me. They were like the nicest customer ever after they realized like, oh, that's on me. And
Right. Yeah. So, terms and conditions, and it can save you from a lot of things. Like, when you say that you'll clean the gutters, and they might be thinking you're going to clean out the gutters when you might just be doing gutter brightening, and you can specify in some of those terms and conditions and have some of those exclusions, like gutter brightening doesn't include cleaning out the gutters and stuff like that. So that's huge. So you start from the very beginning. You talk to guys about how to form an LLC, CRM usage, what to store of customers' information,
and I recommend stuff in here. Like I say, these are the big boys, like House Call Pro, Customer Factor, market. And I talk about house washing, flat work, roof cleaning, post-job email, equipment, shirts. I recommend you go to the forum. I give you terms to search for. I talk about YouTube channels I recommend, charts and diagrams, terms and conditions. I have a bunch of books to read in here, like Turning the Flywheel and Start with Why. Like customers really respond when you have a good why, and your why is yours. Maybe you don't want to share that with the customer. Mine's easy. We started this company to help people. Like I retired from the Navy. The Navy retirement doesn't make you rich, but I don't have to work. But we're all too young to do nothing, and we're all too motivated. And this is our chance to finally do things on our terms. So the drive to do this is high. But at the end of the day, we did this to help people. Our very first employee was day one. This company was making 0 money. We had a salary employee. The reason we did that is to help them. And it was our friend. It's Mindy. She's amazing. She's such a beast. She's such a hard worker. But the reason that we did that against all business sense, we could have waited and said, we'll hire you when the company's making money. But it was like, no, she committed to move across the country and help me build the truck. And we started her pay immediately, because it was the choice that we made. And that's the way we run our company. Like if we make a mistake or you're not happy, we're going to make it right. We don't care what it takes. We've never had a bad review. Customers are always excited because we're not perfect. We've made mistakes. When we expanded, you're going to run into those growing pains. That's the stuff I don't talk about in the book. I can't write I could. I'm not going to write a book that's 1,000 pages. But it's the bare bones of like, I think that this looks like an industry I want to get into. you're going to spend a lot of money in this industry.
Yeah. Really
I
quickly.
would say buy the book. Amazon often sells it for cheaper. I priced it $19.99, and then they put it on sale, which is great. I love that they do that. They
Yeah.
put it on sale, and it doesn't affect me. And I only earned $4 a book, so it's not like I'm
Oh,
raking
okay.
it in.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
like, if they lower the price, it doesn't affect my earnings.
So
But
by all means.
I am loving it when they do that because it's a better deal for people. But
Right.
another thing is for anybody watching, anybody ever, I try to get this out as much as possible. If you buy the paperback, I will send you the PDF for free so the links work. Like,
Nice. Oh, and that's probably something that's really important. Like if you're getting into pressure washing and you're referencing a lot of diagrams and YouTube videos and things like that, so that you're not having to manually type those in. So if you
this
have
whole
the
book is hyperlinked, and they're
yeah,
not visible. They're just a blue underline, so you know it's a hyperlink.
right, yeah, that's pretty important. Do you know about how many books before since you've published? Because obviously a lot of copies went out over Google, but do you know about how many books you've sold?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000 books. That
Yeah,
is crazy.
I'm
So
about 10 a day now.
do you have plans for like a second book or a revision of your current book?
It's either going to be a second book or a revision because what I did was I went to a lot once people knew who I was. I don't know, that's a good thing, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
went to them and said, "Hey, I'm gonna revise my book. Would you? You're like the best at this. Would you like to give me a chapter? And it's about you. Like it can literally be your story inside my book. I don't
Oh,
care
that's
what you
great.
write."
Yeah,
And I
that's
said
that's a
it,
great idea.
and I went to 10 big guys in the industry, and 9 of 10 were like, yes. And then the one that was like, no thanks, he was very nice. He's like, I'm not interested. He's like, I already have like, he is incredibly well known. And I'm like, I get it. It's like, it's a time suck to sit down and do
Yeah, oh,
that.
yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
and he was super polite about it. Like that guy was like, if you ever want to talk to me, hit me up. But it was just like, I'm not going to write a chapter for a
I'm not
book. I'm
going to
like, yeah.
commit to writing a bunch of yeah, no,
And I
I
told
totally
everybody, I
understand that.
said, I need it by October so I can start, putting it together.
Right.
And I think that what I'm going to do is I really think I'm going to be forced to make the second book because guys are giving me like great stuff. Like I had a guy that he gave me like 49 pages. My book is only 93 pages. One guy gave me 49 pages of great stuff. And it's a lot of color. It's going to significantly, when I get all this from everybody, it's going to
Yeah.
significantly increase the size of the book and it's going to increase the price that I don't have a choice. Like I have to raise the price to meet the minimum. Amazon, when you go publish a full color book, 'cause it's full
Sure.
color, they set the minimum and then you have to charge above that. So what I don't want to
Okay.
do is make the entry level book any more expensive.
Right. So it needs to be like a secondary book. Like you kind of need to read this and graduate from that to get to, it's almost
It'd
like
be like
the
pressure washing
basic beginners.
201.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Seriously though. Seriously. That's actually,
Yeah.
that's a super great idea. So really,
If you
I
want
think,
a chapter in the book, Sean, I will take a chapter from you. But what I tell people is like,
hey, I'll write a
please,
chapter.
please do the due diligence to brand yourself in this chapter. Like, I
Yeah.
need your
Oh, you can,
website.
you can believe that I will
Yes,
brand
I
myself.
believe that you
Right.
will, but I'm just saying, like, I want people, like, this is my book, so
Yeah.
the money's going to my pocket, but
Yeah.
like, it needs to reflect the people that are putting their hard effort into it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's just like for them, it's a free venue of advertising. It's a little bit of I get a new product out of it, but
Mm-hmm.
really, I'm
Well,
just getting condensed
well,
info to the industry.
yeah, and I think what's really important to it, at least from my perspective, is like the due diligence comes from making sure that people get great advice. Like, again, like when we talk about Facebook and Google ads and stuff like that, there is a world of ways not to do and run Facebook ads. Like just because you take my course on Facebook ads does not mean that your company is ready to run Facebook ads. It's like I just commented on a post, not to drag this out any longer. I commented on a post a couple hours ago. And one of the groups, it might have been your group, I don't know. Somebody asked, does anybody have any advice on SEO companies? And I went and took a look at his website, and I basically wrote a long comment that said something along the lines of like, you're not ready for SEO. Like, I sell SEO. Well, I do SEO. And there were tons of people in the comments that were saying, reach out to me. I'll do SEO for next to nothing. And it's like, you don't want to get into SEO yet. You're not ready for it. You don't want to spend any money on this because you're going to, for the plethora of reasons. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I'm all about making sure that people get good advice. And so that's yeah. So I'll definitely talk to you more about that, because I would love to give some
Good
people some
business
insight.
ethics is like, that's why, you know, I don't recommend just anything. Like, I have to either use your product, see it in
Yeah.
person, or like understand enough about it that I feel comfortable with it to make recommendations. And
Like
most of the
I
stuff,
couldn't produce a product and then send you 2 cases of it and say, please promote this on your Facebook group. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I'm not gonna do that. You know,
Yeah.
like, unless it's just like common sense. Like today, you know, I've been trying to schedule that live for the GPS tracking, and then, you know, my friend
Oh
was
yeah, I saw
like,
you
hey,
posting about
she
that.
was like, hey, you're slacking on this, and I was like, yeah, my bad, might be. I was like, let me do you a solid, because like I did go to her and say, this is crucial for our industry. No
Yeah.
one's talking about it, but guys are asking about it. There's lots of posts about it. I said, you know, look, give me all your info, and I posted it. And I said, we'll schedule a live next week, and you know, because I don't, you don't shouldn't have to wait for a live just to get the info. That's why that guy
Right.
about the health insurance, like, he was just having a conversation with me. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. He had said, "Do you have health insurance?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're good as a company." I said, but I circled back to him and I said, "Hey, I'm good, but like, I would love to have a conversation with you about this. So it's just more data out there. Like that insurance conversation I had with the guy from Frank Crum, my rep Orlando. Woo! Everybody got a lot out of that. They loved it because it
Yeah.
was like they understood more about a lot of things in the industry. I have so many guys afterwards were like, you know, what were the codes and blah blah, and that's why I put them in the post, and I pinned the video so they can go back, and I've started to put videos on my YouTube so people can, you know, because Facebook they go whoop, you know, like 100 posts a
Yeah.
day, they're gone.
Yeah. Disappear quick. Yeah.
So
Well, so and so a couple of things on that. So to your point about not being sold by the person who was talking to you about insurance, and that's why, like, if you and I'll reach out to you, and if you want, I can look at your Facebook ads account with you and give you some of my pointers and tips and advice. But even if you would have told me that there was an agency or somebody that was doing your Facebook ads, I will look at anybody's Facebook ads and give them any insight with no monetary value, because again, I want to see people win. I understand it's difficult when you get started in business, and there's a lot of things you can do wrong. And so if I can be that little bit of information that you get that you can trust and not have to worry about it, that's enough for me. But so just really quickly, just so people understand, somebody that you know or somebody you just did a live with, they just came out, or you were talking about a GPS device. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll kind of wrap it up? But I wanted to make sure, because anybody who watches this on YouTube, they're going to be like, wait, what are you talking about, GPS device?
yeah, so just a tracking device. So the way that they recommend is the cars or trucks. Those are hardwired into your car or truck, and those are like $25 a month. And then the trailer is hardwired into your 12-volt system on your trailer, like your lights.
Yeah.
And those are $14 a month. There is a 3-year contract on them, but the trailer ones are they're self-powered, so they continually charge when your trailer's plugged in. But say you park your trailer somewhere it's not plugged in, they cut your trailer lock. That GPS has got self-power on it, and it's powered by Verizon. So Verizon obviously is national. So, you know, unless these people like find this GPS tracker, and you know, a thief may go straight and look for it and cut it off, but like
Right.
that's time. But in general, like they won't. So, you know, you're gonna get an opportunity to go get your trailer back. You know,
Right,
just
right. So for like $20 a month, you guarantee that if your equipment gets stolen, you have a very high probability of getting your, $10,000 rig back. And
yeah.
so what I will do, Heath, is I'll get a link from you after this call. I'll drop it in this comments and also put it in the YouTube section, because I did see a lot of the information in your group about that. I thought it was a really interesting product, and so I do want people to be able to go check that out if they want. But yeah, Heath, if that's all you have, I mean, we talked about a lot of really great stuff, guys. Again, Heath has been wildly successful, and I think that the premise of all of this is that he is not, obviously we all get into business to make money, but if it's not the forefront of everything that he does, right? Like, we don't do free work, we don't do discounted work for reviews, if we're in it for the money. And so that just shows you that doing work for free or doing work at a discount to get reviews and to get social media content, yes, it will not pay you today, but it will pay you in 6 to 9 months when all of those referrals start coming in from all those people that you did work for. So Heath, I really had a lot of fun having you on here, and honestly, I'm probably going to bring you back again to talk a little bit more about your social media, because a lot of people do not post at the frequency that you do, and so I want to pick your brain a little bit more about that. So for everybody that's watching or watch this on YouTube, watch it on Facebook Live, thanks for tuning in. Obviously,
Real
if you
quick,
guys
you're
have
gonna be at the Huge, right?
The where?
The huge
In
convention?
In Arizona?
No, the huge convention in Georgia. Didn't you say you got a booth? Was that you?
No, no, it wasn't
Okay.
me.
Somebody
So
just told me today they had a booth. I'm
no,
brain melt.
I reached out to Ron actually yesterday or today about coming and speaking at some of his events, but he's all booked up until I think like January. But if who's running this event that's down in Georgia?
The huge convention is kind of a standalone thing, but we're going. It's August 18th is the meet and greet, 19th and 20th. I'll send you the info.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
reason I
send it
was
to me.
curious is
Yeah,
like,
I want to come down. I want to come down.
yeah, it's a great. We're purely going as a company to network. Like, and I'm hoping to learn stuff too. But it's a
Right.
big convention at the Marriott. But yeah, it'd be awesome if you come. That's what I always tell
Yeah.
people. Like I told my Verizon girl, my friend, I said, hey, get cut loose to come to this thing. Like you need
Right.
to be in front of your target market.
Right.
Like,
Well, and it's so hard too because it seems like, you know, when I first got started in this industry and helping guys in pressure washing and in these groups, I only thought it was like 1 to 2 guys that were hosting events, but there are tons of events that are happening from all kinds of different people. And so I want to be involved in as many as I can.
There's one in New Orleans in September.
Of course,
New Orleans.
There's probably one that's going on next week that I don't know about either. So we need to.
Those are the two big ones that I know about.
There needs to be a text email blast. Somebody needs to create this. There you go. Somewhere, you know, I'm a marketing guy. Maybe we'll.
They're unifying it. Talk to Ron.
Yeah.
He's trying to unify the info.
Yeah, I will. I will because that's pretty huge information. Well, Heath, again, thank you for having me on. I'll reach out to you directly for some other things. Drop some of the links that we talked about today, and thank all of you guys for watching. If you have any questions for Heath, I'm sure he would not mind if you added him as a friend and shot him a message. Because he's just like me. We like helping business owners. So, Heath, thanks again, and it was a pleasure having you on.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.